Okay, I think we're.
Was that your pursuit picture? Or is
Yeah.
that from an event you went to?
That's from graduation.
That's from his modeling career.
Oh.
Oh, how did I get here?
Oh, how was your trip to Guessworks?
It was amazing. It was amazing. I got to meet this marketing manager. She was like,
So let me share this.
she stood
here.
out for me out of like everyone. That and like this engineer, her name was, I believe, like Jane. You were there, right?
Where? Gia.
Jane. She was like
Like an agent,
you know, yeah.
like just hitting the first next mother.
Yeah, she was talking about Neopets, how she started.
We can see the email. Remember to send us all the names?
Yeah.
Her name had 3 letters and something like Gia. Or
I think that
Gia.
no, that was the first one, the mom.
Oh.
That was the mom. The one
Then there was Claire.
Claire, yeah, and the one next to Claire. Claire and the guy.
Cool. So
Kate? Oh, maybe it was Kate. You're right. I don't know where I got name.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use Reed's backing for the one that he did for user auth. Sorry?
Are we saying that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna use his backend because what concerns us is the front end, right? So I'm just gonna clone this. Let's see if I have something here. I already have it here, but let me just remove this. Again, clone. Oh. Let's clone this. So this is here. Let me rename this. This is an empty folder where I'm gonna use for our example. So I'm just gonna take reads, and I'm gonna remove the client because all the stuff that I have selected is the backend. So I'm gonna new tab here. So I'm gonna create a folder, go back in, and I'm gonna paste all his stuff here. Cool.
It's this, I get a lot of allergies
So
here, like in the school.
create a,
And it's because
actually,
I think they don't.
let's create a folder. Let's create a React app.
I have no allergies.
So I send you the link to Genia so that you can share the stream. I also send it to Andrew.
But let's just post it in TA office hours.
I'm sorry?
In TA office hours.
What do you mean by that?
The shared link for to stream, you said?
Yeah, I send it to you directly on Slack.
So you can share it in.
Is there like a channel? Or-
Yeah, TA.
Yeah, I don't have access to that one.
Okay.
Why not?
Oh, that one? Oh, I don't know why I'm not in that
Right.
one.
Oh, I was like messaging here.
Oh, too late.
What?
Robin.
So let's see.
I'll delete it.
No, don't delete it.
Do it.
No, we all so good.
Okay, cool. So we have the stream is live. Cool. So now let's go to, we have our backend here. I'm gonna create React app. It's for our front end. let's see where we are. So we're in the right folder. To create React.
Okay.
So yeah, I cloned the backend from Reed's auth example. And the backend is everything but the client folder. The client folder is his front end. I'm gonna go with a different approach, which is a front end, backend folder, and a front end folder. So I'm gonna create React app, and this one I'm gonna call it front end.
Okay.
And then this
Are
is,
you in the app? Wait.
yeah, so
First you cloned his thing.
yeah,
His backend.
I clone his backend, and I remove the client folder,
Remove the client folder manually.
and that's it, yeah.
Okay.
And then I put all his stuff into the folder backend. Let's see here. So this folder has everything that he has, but the client folder. Yeah. So let's see where we are here. Let me close this. And then we can start.
Wait, where do you find the code?
You mean Reed's code?
Yeah, this is on campus, right?
Oh, I messaged it to,
Python one?
do you want me to message it to you?
I'm gonna,
Just Python one.
Okay.
so I'm gonna put it in the Slack
Okay.
using Reed's backend. So yeah, this is the link. So we're here in user auth, I hope, with two folders, backend and frontend. The frontend is a Create React app, and the backend was Reed's backend. So just to see that everything works, let's try to run the backend. And I think so. I think Reed has he has a DB folder, and I think we're gonna need to seed the database. Let's just see what this has. So we can see that in the seed, he has just created a database user list. He connects to that database, and then he creates a table users with an ID, username and password, I guess. Oh, so let me seed my database. PSQL-F. Seed. Oh. Now we have our database. Now that we have our database, we can, let's see if we can run the backend. Oh, and I do npm start.
Did you do npm install?
Oh, so he's, I didn't have to do npm install because I see that he has a node modules file, folder, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So it comes, yeah, this comes with it.
it.
Yeah, if I didn't have that, then I will need to do npm install to install the dependencies.
So if I clone his,
And
then I have to go through in my computer manually delete the client folder.
yeah, I think I was actually thinking that, what if instead of you trying to follow, just like pay attention to the screen?
Okay.
How do you feel with that? I feel like, I think that's something, no, not only faster, but it just like, I feel like it will be more beneficial for you if you just pay attention.
Yeah.
Because you get lost on,
You're right, I'll just take notes.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
notes.
I think,
Even though
not even that.
I'll just hold it in my hand to make me feel.
Cool. Just like be comfortable with all the steps that I'm doing, and if some of them is,
I would love to write down the steps, honestly. Like, what if you were creating it from like scratch? Just
Scratch.
Give me like 4 minutes of your time and tell me like what we would need to install.
Okay.
For the backend, we're doing it in Express, right?
Yeah.
So for like, okay, we have like a new app. We have to make an app
Mm-hmm.
that has backend and frontend. So first what's the first thing we do?
So in that case, wait, because I cannot do it like from scratch,
No,
because
just tell me. Just
okay.
Don't write. Like just tell me what do you need to install.
So you just need to know that you need a front end and a back end,
yes.
right? So for front end, you could use the Express generator. Okay. That is like the create React app for Express.
Okay, create. Not what about Axios?
So Axios, but Axios will be once you realize, oh, I need to make network requests, you will install that.
So we'll do create React app.
Yeah, you could. Let me do it like here, just so that I'm gonna create another folder called my new app, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna cd to my new app.
The umbrella, like the big folder app. Okay.
So we can see here that I don't have anything inside this folder. And then if I want an Express backend, I could do Express. This is if you have installed the Express generator beforehand. So like a few minutes ago, I did this Express generator. You see, I run this line. And this install Express generator globally. That's what the G is for. And because I did that, now now I can do Express backend. And this is going to create a backend for me. Now, if I look what I have, now I have a backend. And then if I go there, I can see the basic structure for a backend with Express. Cool. Then I will need a front end. So for a front end, I will do create front. And this is going to take some time, so I'm going to kill it. Because this one is installing all the dependencies for React.
Yeah.
Whereas the backend, doesn't have a node modules. For instance, we can see that here, this one doesn't have a node modules, so we will need to install. In the backend, we need to do an npm install. And what's npm install doing?
It's installing all the dependencies in the JSON.
How does it know what dependencies to install?
It's looking in the JSON.
Oh, that's not here.
Lock.
Yeah, that's like a fancy one. So this is the package JSON, and npm install is going to look at these dependencies, and it's going to install them if I do npm install. npm install reads the package JSON, looks for the dependency, and install them. And then now if I do again, you can see that I have a node module folder now. And this is basically what you will do. With this, I already have a backend and a front end, and I can start like coding basically. So this is where we are in our initial example, which is this one. Well, in this one, we are actually a little bit ahead because in the backend we have, so let me open this text editor. In the backend, I have Reed's backend that we took, and then he already has Auth. He has already set up some routes, like the user routes. Cool. So this is we're assuming here that you already have your backend set up for your user Auth. Cool.
Perfect. But thank you for explaining.
Cool. Okay. Okay. So now I'm gonna transfer. I'm not gonna have this terminal here. I'm just gonna open this one.
But also for the backend, we have to npm install bcrypt.js, right?
Yeah, you will need to install those.
And passport local.
And we didn't need to install those because if we look in the package JSON in the backend from Reed's app, he has bcrypt here.
But for us, we would have to install it, right?
Yeah, if you're starting from scratch, you will need to install it. Yeah. Okay, so let's try to run our backend. Oh, and we should fix this error. I do ns just because I alias an npm start, but it's the same as doing npm start. So I'm kind of bothered by this error. So does anyone have an idea why we're getting this error?
For the same connection. You're connected to something on the same local host?
Well, yeah, what this error is saying, well, it's rather a warning. It's saying that we're instantiating the database twice somewhere. So I'm just gonna.
You need to drop it somewhere?
So I'm just gonna do a search to see where we're doing the database. So let's just see where we do DB. Oh, so we have this one, local.js. This is in the backend auth folder. Let's see. So here with this we're making an instance of the database here, the database object. And this is an interface that PG Promise gave us so that we can talk to the database. That's why we can do db.1 and send this command to the database. Because PG Promise did an instance of the database here. So I think, let's see. So the warning has to be associated with the fact that we're doing connection string twice, because we're connecting. This is saying duplicate database object for the same connection. So that means we're creating two of these database with the same. So for that, we should actually have just one. So for instance, if I look for this, string, probably we should see two. Oh, so actually you see we have like 3 of them. So this means we're instantiating 3 copies of the database. And ideally, you only need 1. So for alleviating this, what we could do is, okay, so let's go to the database here. Then you see queries here. So there are a couple of ways of doing this. The way that I like to do it is I create a folder here, a file called index.js. And then this index, the only thing that it needs to do is connect to the database. So I'm going to copy this and paste it here. So I only instantiate once. I could do, and then here I could do module.export. Cool. So now I can get rid of all the other saying just importing index. So for instance, in query, I no longer need this, not this. And here I could just do require index. Cool. Now we should still see the same 2 errors. Let's kill here, or the same 2 warnings. Cool. And then now with this thing that we know, let me just search for connection string again. So we have, basically what I'm going to do is in Passport, instead of instantiating a new database, I'm just going to import it from index. Okay, so let's see where we are. db/index. Is everyone like clear with kind of what I'm doing here? Cool. And then in local, I'm just gonna do the same.
I could try using this and getting the same error, the warning. But since it was working, I didn't bother. Yeah, that was kind of my hunch as well. That might be.
But it's cool to just like really understand what the error is saying.
Yeah.
DB. Now everything should work, and we should no longer see those errors. Cool. Now because we only have one instance of the database here, we just import that instance whatever we needed. We need the database in Passport, we need the database in queries, and we need the database in local. Cool. Now we can get to our stuff. Cool. So the database, the backend is running. Back here. Backend is running. Let's figure out. Let's study this backend. Let's see how it's set up, because I have an idea, but it's better if we just get rid of our assumptions. Cool. So I see. Well, we're using all this stuff, but here we can see we're importing two things: index and users from routes. Users, that's probably some routes that we're going to use. We created the Express app here, and then we set up this. This is for this was like the old way of doing, like without React, you will do templates. I don't know if you guys saw that, but basically Jade is a view engine or a template engine that, let me actually see if I can show you quickly here. So like if you go to, I don't know in what port this is running, but I'm gonna guess. Okay, let's not guess. Let's see where the port is. Cool. So one way in which I could verify that is in here. Well, I know where what file the port is set up, but here I just type port and see. Oh, we have like a bunch of ports. I actually know that it's here. It's in the backend /bin in the file www. Yeah. Here we can see like ports.
3100.
Yeah, 3100. Cool. So let's go here. So this is Jade. This is Jade doing its job. This is Jade rendering an error. And you can see that because, and like, I don't want to, I guess like, I don't want to branch off or like derail from our main purpose, but I feel like I would like to clarify some stuff. So if you guys see that I'm going off the path, please just.
No, please, this.
Cool.
Important.
So here, let's see like that error is sent from here. From here, this error handler. This error handler is, if we didn't find, so you guys see how like, or know how with React, with Express, everything is middleware, or most stuff is middleware basically. Like, so like a good example is here, like with this line, what we're saying is, okay, every request that goes to this endpoint, send it to the index router basically, and we can see here that we have it here. And then the index will do something with that, and so on with this one. But let's decompose this request. For instance, I did a 300 login, 3100 login, right? And I'm getting a not found. So I'm getting that not found because basically this app sees that it has a slash. So if something starts with a slash, send it to index. If something starts with a slash user, send it to users. But I'm sending a slash login, right? Yeah. And there's nothing with that. So the next thing runs, which is this one. So here, you see how here I don't have a path here. Yeah. I have like slash nothing. This means that this is gonna run always if one of these two didn't catch it, I handle it. So it comes here, and then it creates a new error with not found. It sets the error status to 404, and then it calls this next. If you guys have read the documentation on Express, this next is the next middleware. And in this case, the next middleware is this other function here. And then this other function, again, it doesn't have a path, right? It just takes care of setting like locals in the message. And I guess like, well, it will only do that if we're in development. And this is like with this, we're basically saying, okay, check the environment in which we're running. And this is going to be useful once you get more into like when you do like more apps and then you feel like, oh, I want this app to behave in this way in development, and then when it's in production, for instance, in production, you don't want to display any errors, right? But in development, the errors are useful because, well, you're developing and you need the errors to troubleshoot stuff. And then here it says it sets the status of that to the status that was set up here, so 404, and or otherwise 500, which is something that didn't pass here, that for some reason failed and ended up here. And then this res.render is the one that is actually calling Jade and say, okay, Jade, render an error page. And this error message is for res.locals.message is for Jade to display it, because that's how Jade knows here, okay, render error, but it doesn't know what error to render, but it does in the sense that we set it up here. Cool.
So they're all error handlers, and they're all working together then? I know that the first one was if you're not going to the correct path. Mm-hmm. The second one was, I'm sorry.
So this one catches anything that didn't catch, that was not catched here. Yeah, and then this one just forwards the error for this error handler that is just gonna take care of displaying a nice message here. Because if we comment this line and we run this again, let's see. I think, oh, well. We're not gonna see, so you see like how it's waiting like that? Mm-hmm. Is because I never send a response from the backend. So I'll need to do like res.send. So you see, cool. Or I could do like res.render other stuff, but we're not, Jade is for like the front end of your app. And we're not using Jade for the front end, we're using React. Okay, so after that long interlude, let's go to the code. So I was saying, okay, I want to understand this app a little bit better. The only thing that I want to understand is the routes, basically. So I have here this route slash, and then it's going to be handled by the index file. So let's see what that index file is going to look like. Also index. Okay, and then here we see like a very simple thing. And like let's here, for example, we're using render again, meaning we're using Jade. We're calling the index view, and then we're passing this to be displayed. And this is what you see when you just do this. What you see when you do this. Oh. So here I can just type anything, but yeah, it's not really what we want. Cool. So this is not doing anything. This comes with React. No, not with React, with the Express generator. Mm-hmm. We can ignore it for now. Let's see what users is doing. Cool. So we have the users, and then we see that we have the Express router, the DB, passport, login require, and then I see that, okay, so all the slash users, we have slash user, slash new, slash login, slash is logged in, and then slash logout. Cool. And And then we see that these are still middleware, or like a route handler, you could call it too. So basically, any request that arrives to /user/new is going to be handled by the db.createUser function. So let's just take a peek to what createUser is doing. CreateUser receives the request, the response next is going to create a hash of the rec.body.password, and it saves it here, and then it's going to db.non, insert basically into users. We're going to insert the username, password digest, and these two come from this object down here, which is the second argument to the db.non. Cool. So then if that is successful, we just res.status 200, and res.json is the same as saying res.send. Yeah, and then res.json is just a convenient way for us to send JSON to the front end, or to the client who's requesting. So cool. And then, so here we have a catch. If the db.non failed for whatever reason, we just call res.status 500, meaning there was an error internally. That's what 500 means. And JSON, we send message with the error. So cool. So like, I guess like you guys are mostly comfortable with all this, right? How do you feel?
I feel fine.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So cool. So let's see. Let me go onto this one a little bit. The login, the /login is going to be handled by passport that authenticate local. And then we can see what this one is going to do, because if we go to passport here, close this one. Passport that authenticate, what it's going to do is, well, this is like the passport setup, but here we can see what it's doing. So, let's see. Well, what passport that authenticate is going to do is going to grab from the users table a user from where the username is equal to username, and then this username is this usernames comes from, well, it will come from the body, from the body that was sent in the request. And then it's going to do, if it finds something, which is we're running this then we receive the user here, then we call this compare the password, just check if the password that the user inserted matches the password that came from the user from the database. This user here is the user that came from the database. And then this compare password, this is the plain text password, and then this is the hash. And if we look onto this one, what it's doing, we can see that it's calling this bcrypt compare sync. This is still the plain object, the plain password, and then this is the database password, which is the password digest. And what this function is going to do, I was explaining to Nikki yesterday, is from this password, it knows this is a digest, right? And then this digest has the first, I think it's the first 4 characters. It indicates what hashing algorithm was used to create it. And then with that, it just applies the same hashing algorithm to this side. And then if both hashing algorithms have to return the same characters so that they match. Cool. So this is gonna return this true or false, basically. That's cool.
So when you're creating a hash, every time it runs like a new algorithm to create the hash?
So every time you're trying to log in, for instance, this user password that came here, the plain text, is gonna be hashed. Yeah.
No, I mean like when you create a user.
When you create a user, yeah. So in here we can, if we go to the /new create user.
I mean, when you were saying that it like checks for the first 4 characters to see which algorithm was used.
Yeah.
So I'm saying when you create a user, does it like every time you use like a new algorithm to create the?
No, it's always use the same algorithm. Yeah. It always uses the same algorithm. I don't know exactly which one it is that bcrypt uses, but it's a safe one. It's a good one. Cool. And yeah, the fact that you might know what algorithm was used, but that's not enough for you to break the password, because you still need to input something to that algorithm that will turn out to be the hash that you have. Cool. So let's go, we were here. So in Passport, then Passport checks all that, and then we can see when it's gonna call next, I think. Oh, well, it calls, if the comparison was successful, it was gonna call this function called done with null and the user. And if there was an error, it just calls done with error. And then this done is provided by, well, no, we're creating a new strategy here. And to the constructor, we pass this function, this callback function. And one of the arguments is gonna be done. And that's how once this call's done, basically it's gonna call the next middleware, and that next middleware is gonna be this one, db.login user. And then we can just see what this is doing. And this one is like actually not doing much. It's just sending the request user, basically. Cool, so that was like a very kind of high-level explanation of how this one is working. Cool, I guess let's try this with Postman, just so that we make sure that everything is working. Oh, I don't have Postman here. So so we have 301. This is just gonna give us that. But we wanna register a user, so let's do user/new. And then here we're gonna pass, okay, we need to set up the body. This is the format, username. Password. Okay, let's see, username. And let's see what we had. Oh, not found. We got a not found. Why? Not found usually means just that I'm not sending the.
Is it password or is it password digest?
From the front end. That's a good question. Let's see how.
I think it's set up different.
So we're seeing 404 not found. It means that I made a mistake here in the URL, or that the backend is not set up for, that the backend is not set up for handling routes.
No.
Yeah, but so.
Does it have to? Okay, it has to be a user new, or does it have to be just like new?
It has to be, because this is the user.
This is the user.
Yeah. And then we have it here.
Okay.
And then if we look here, I made a spelling mistake in my request.
User new.
Yeah.
Users.
So I have in here
User.
I have to do users. Cool. And then let's say I don't know if I'm assuming that I have to send a username and a password, but I don't really know. But so we could go here and see what is the function that is handling this route is this one db.create user. So let's go to that is inside the queries JS file and then create user. Cool. So here we can see the request, and then here we're seeing that the request body is expecting a key called password. So I got that one correctly.
Wait, you click on create user and it's a key to the actual. It's in the Visual Studio Code. That's how it works.
Oh yeah, here
So cool.
I know.
I can control click to follow this link.
Oh my god, that's awesome. Wow, that's incredible.
And then I control click again here, and then okay. Cool. So here we're using a password. So this route is expecting a password key in the body, and then here is also expecting. Here we can see that it's also expecting a username in the body as well. So because of this, I know that in my network request, I need a username and a password. So let's try to send this again. Oh, still not found. This is interesting. This is like a very minor.
Wait, what are you getting and do you need to post?
Exactly, yeah. So this, we can see here that this is listening for post requests, and I'm sending a GET request. So I'm going to change this here, post. Let's try to send it again. Cool. Registration successful. Let's try to log in. I'm going to duplicate this tab. The route, I guess, is logging. And I'm going to have username. Password. 3 or 4. I think. Yeah. Let's try to. Sorry. Oh, there is this thing here, but this is was we got.
Oh my God, sorry. Sorry. There's some food on the counter in case you guys want anything.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh yeah, we could take a break in a few minutes. So. 12:55. Cool. Let's see. Well, let me just see the time. Is it? It's 12:30. Cool. So the login. This allowed me to log in correctly, but look at this. Like we don't wanna. Oh, this is what I was saying that you get. This. I think this first section identifies the password algorithm that was used.
Got it.
Yeah.
Between the dollar signs, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if up until this $sign. I think it's like all this.
Mm-hmm.
I read this somewhere. I'm not. I think I read it in the bcrypt documentation or something like that. Cool. This is not something you want to do. You don't want to send the password digest to the client because, well, with this password digest, they cannot do much, but it's still something that.
Yeah, you wanna.
Yeah, you don't wanna send it back. We should prevent this, but I'm not gonna go into that because this is gonna take some time. Cool, so we can log in. What's the other thing?
Log out.
Log out. Actually, let me.
And we have to stay logged in, right? Is it like are we just log in?
I'm sorry?
Like the host is logged in.
Let me just save this request here so that I can reuse it again. Now let me duplicate. And then log out. I think this is probably a GET request. And I don't need any of this.
But you
Right?
need something. You need a user.
Oh.
Or you mean like we're already logged in.
Yeah.
So whoever is logged in is gonna get logged out.
So let's see. Let's analyze that one. Log out.
Is logged in.
We have.
We missed that.
And it's a post.
Okay, it's a post. Huh, that's interesting.
But the is logged again.
And then we have this login required that comes from here. So I'm just gonna click here to go there. helpers, then login require. Login require is checking if we have a rec.user. Okay, this is a good chance for talking about some of this stuff Passport is doing behind the scenes. So this is seeing if you have a rec.user, basically. And if you have this, then, no, if you don't have it, it's going to send you a forbidden, right? Otherwise, it's going to call next. So login require, I see that I don't need to send anything. I just need to send the logout request. But how does it know that what user to log out?
The one that's logged in.
The one that's logged in, yes. And that is thanks to Passport. Because Passport has this thing, has this serialized. I should maybe see here so that you guys can see what files I'm moving in because I'm jumping. So this is the Passport, and this deserialized and serialized users is what read. So when I'm gonna send the logout request, and then I don't need to send anything, but let's see if it works first before I go into.
No, because you see the request.
Because the backend gave us a cookie. That's how it's gonna know. Yeah. So here.
Yeah.
So let's try if this one logs out. This is a post, right? Send logout. Logout success.
Yeah.
Cool. And then this is like not even an object. This is just raw text. But that's okay. Well, ideally, you want your backend to serve responses in the same kind of format, or it is either all JSON or all plain text or XML or any other format. But for us, it's mostly just JSON. Cool. So now let's see. So I'm gonna try to log in again, and then here I can see. I want to show you the cookie because it has to be somewhere. Let's go here. Localhost 1 cookie, and then it's this. This is the cookie. And then, so this is basically what kind of identifies me as the user who's logged in. And then Passport uses this to basically grab the user object from the database. Wait, actually. It's going to serialize and deserialize the user with this information. And then it's going to, let's look at that. Well, actually, wait, before we move on, I want to show you that in here we had the same cookie. You see how I'm going to create a completely new request here.
Also in the two requests.
I'm going to create a completely new request. And again, I don't need to send nothing, but this is a post. And if I look at the cookies here, I have that cookie. Even though this is a completely new request, because I'm sending a request to the same domain, I still have the cookie. And then, cool. So as long as we have this cookie, we can log out and can make other requests. Cool. And then, for instance, like if I try to send, so the cookie is still here. But if I try to send this again, it's gonna be forbidden. That's because in the back, your server and Express invalidated this cookie, and it's no longer valid. Cool. So if I log in again, so that's what. So if I log in again. And let's look at, there's another route. This one is logged in, for instance. So DB that is logged in, see what that is doing, is in queries. This one just checks if the user is in the request. And then it's just gonna render, it's just going to return the JSON username rec.user. So let's look at that. Because I'm logged in. this is another thing. Like I can log in multiple times, but in each one of these times, this cookie should be changing. I think. Let's see that. Look at this. I'm gonna login again. Let's see if this cookie is different. I will expect it to be different, but I might be wrong. I think it's the same actually. So let's do. Is it the same? Yeah, it is the same. I'm copying and. Cool. So in this case, we don't get a new cookie because Passport is seeing that we're logging in a user that's already logged in. It doesn't do anything. Cool. So now let's make a request to the is logged in. What's the name of the endpoint? Is logged in camel case. Is it a post request?
No, it's a get.
A get request. So we can see here back that the cookie is traveling. This cookie. Send it. Cool. We have this thing. So here we don't have to because we say here in the app, we say app.use initialize and a passport that initialize a passport that session. What this is saying is every request that arrives to our backend is going to pass through this middleware, passport initialize and passport session. And then we get the request user because if we look at the one of these passport, yeah, the serialize and the serialize, this one. Actually, I'm not exactly sure which one of these is the one that is in charge of restoring the user to direct that user. One of these two, I'm pretty sure it's this one. This one, you see that it goes to the database, and it tries to find, it's trying to find a user by this username. And it's gonna call done with that username. So this one, well, we could go to the documentation, but this is what it's doing. It's serializing the user to the session and out of the session. And that's why, well, I'm not exactly even sure what that means. Like the session part, I'm not sure exactly what a session is, but we can assume that it has something to do with the cookie that we have. That cookie identifies a session that says that we're logged in. Cool. So after that, let's go to, so we verified that we could log in the back end. Now let's get to the front end, I think. Cool. So let's see. Let's close all this stuff in the back end. And then let's go to the front end. Let's run, this is the back end running. No, that was Postman. Oh.
Are we starting the front end?
Yeah, so we're gonna do.
Let's maybe take a break now and then we'll come back and we'll start the front end.
Cool, yeah, let's do that.
I just need to get
I just need to get some free food.
Oh,
Yeah.
free food.
Yeah,
For us. I mean,